One of the absolute toughest places in the world to get a gun. One of the absolute toughest. France is like said to be the toughest country. You can't get a gun unless you're a bad guy. What happened is they walk in and they start shooting people. If like a few of you people were in that room and you had guns strapped to your ankle or your waist and the bullets were flying in the opposite direction, there wouldn't have been 130 people killed. By the way, 130 killed. Many, many, many right now in a hospital, so gravely injured that they're not going to make it. And if they do make it, it's not going to be a pleasant life, okay? Because there was absolutely, they could have stayed there longer and kept shooting. But they were just saying, you, over, boom. You, over, boom. These are animals. These are animals. And then the press called them masterminds, the mastermind. They're not masterminds, they're animals. And we have to stop it. We have to be so tough. We have to be so vigilant. We can't allow this to happen to our country. So in California, 14 people dead, numerous people in the hospital, horribly injured. 14, these are people that gave wedding parties for the people. They knew them. They knew them. And they walk into the room and they started shooting. So we have to be tough. We have to be vigilant. We can't allow it to happen. And we have to protect our Second Amendment. If they had in California guns, not many, just if a couple of people that knew how to use them were in that room, it would have ended long before the 14th person. I can tell you that. And it's so sad. I mean, you have another case, which is just absolutely crazy. You have military bases. And you have gun-free zones on military bases. And we had 5 great young people killed, military people. 2 of them were world champions. One was supposed to be one of the great experts on guns, a great shot, great marksman. And their guns were 200 yards away, locked up, because they had a gun-free zone. And this wacko comes in, sees these 5 guys, shoots them, kills them. Now, these were tough guys. These were guys that couldn't have been, if they were having a gun, he wouldn't have lasted. He would not have gotten near the front door. I mean, one of them, they say, is one of the best. But they were all great soldiers. They weren't allowed to have a gun. Now, they're supposed to protect us, and they use guns, and that's how they protect us, and yet we have gun-free zones. I will end gun-free zones on military bases so fast your head will spin. It'll be the first day. The first day. So they're chipping away at your faith. They're chipping away. I mean, the words Merry Christmas. You're going to say Merry Christmas a lot. Believe me, folks. You know, you go now to a store. You go to a department store like Macy's, a very disloyal company. You go to, it's true. First time I had, when I went out, it's so true. I went out and I gave the opening remarks. I had a nice little thing in Macy's, not big stuff, ties, shirts. I make the opening remarks talking about illegal immigration. And they were told they're going to have a couple of pickets in front of Macy's. And what they did is they said, they called, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? These are people I knew very well. Not a big business. But they said, I said, what's the big deal? They'll picket for 20 minutes and then they want to go to lunch. It's not going to be a big, who cares? They said, but this would be bad. In the meantime, you know, they paid all sorts of penalties and fines for non-inclusion and lots of other things, okay? But they terminated. So they're very disloyal. I will never forget Macy's because I would have never thought that was possible. And they did it over illegal immigration. Then it turned out 2 weeks, by the way, we'd be selling right now shirts and ties and perfumes, and you can get them elsewhere, by the way. Go get them elsewhere. I never liked those stores very much anyway. But if you think about it, you know, the country's about loyalty. You want loyalty in the country. So I mentioned during that speech illegal immigration, and all hell broke loose, right? I took heat. Rush Limbaugh, who's an amazing guy. Drudge, an amazing guy. You know Drudge? He's like one of the great people. He's a powerhouse. But I'll tell you, Rush said, I've never seen anybody take more incoming than Donald Trump for saying something that was right. 2 weeks later, everyone's trying to pivot to me. They're all trying to come and talk about illegal. We wouldn't even be talking about illegal immigration if I didn't bring it up at that opening day, June 16th. Now, it's a long time ago. Hard to believe. Here we are, first day. But June 16th, we wouldn't even be talking about illegal immigration. Now they're all trying to come on board. And the funny thing, my wife said to me the other day, darling, he just said wall. One of the candidates, I won't even say who. What difference does it make? But one of the candidates said, we will build a wall. You know the way they talk? They don't really talk. They like, everything's always like a debate. They're talking to a reporter. We will build a wall. I actually said about Ted, who's a nice guy, I said, he's a good debater, but he's a bad talker. Does that make sense? We will build a wall. And my wife said to me, that's the first time I've heard anyone say they're going to build a wall. Nobody ever said, did you hear anybody say they're going to build a wall other than Trump? And when we get Sheriff Joe, that really is, that really validates what I'm saying. But we have to build a wall, because without a wall, we don't have a country. People are pouring through our border and all over. It's like a sieve. It's like water just pouring right through. And then Obama issues an executive order, and he said, let them come in. And amazingly, the courts, at least temporarily, have stopped them. But it doesn't matter, because if I get in, that'll be the first executive order I end, is that executive order. We won't have to waste our money on lawyers. We're not going to have to waste our money on lawyers. So just a few things, and then we're going to have a big day. And look, the big thing is you got to get out. You got to caucus. I mean, another poll just came out, Quinnipiac, very good poll. We're actually higher than even the Des Moines Register Bloomberg, which came out yesterday. I guess there we were 5 or 6 points. Now I think we're 7 points up in Quinnipiac. But it all doesn't matter, because I hear they all have these great ground games. They got people pouring in buses and trucks, and they're spending all of this money that they're given by the special interests and the lobbyists, and they're spending, and they have unlimited money for that. And so do I, frankly. I mean, so far I'm very proud of something. I've spent less money than anybody else, and I have the best result. I'm number one. It's great, right? And that's what I want to do for our country. I mean, a guy like Bush, he spent $100 million, and he's down at the bottom. Now, he spent $100 million. For our country, I want the person that's going to spend the least and get the best result. Right now it's Norway. Well, right now in education, it's Norway, Sweden, Denmark, China. These are all great places for education, right? We're number 28. In other words, we're toward the bottom of the pack. We have literally nations that you wouldn't believe ahead of us. They're like third world nations ahead of us in education. And yet we spend more money per pupil than anybody else by far. Second place doesn't even exist. It's so far behind. So we spend more money. That's like Jeb Bush. We spend more money and we have a bad result. We're going to spend less money. We're going to bring it back locally. You're going to take over. It's going to be so beautiful. And, I've seen it. I've watched it, because over the years I've watched it. I've seen parents that really joined their school boards and joined their whole little circle of friends to make a school beautiful and good. And their sons and daughters graduate, and they stay on, and they love it. They love it. They do it with love and with intelligence, by the way, but they do it with love instead of having the bureaucrats from Washington running schools in Iowa, which is ridiculous. So someday, we're going to, if I get in, I'm telling you, we're going to spend less money, and we're going to have much better results, not only in education, on everything else. You look at the military. We have a military that's being decimated. It's being decimated. And the money we spend that nobody knows where they're from, where they are. And as I left this morning, I saw something very interesting. In Sweden, they had gangs of people in masks and others, Swedish people, that were going after the migrants because there's been tremendous crime committed. And they've had enough, they've had enough. They've had enough of the stupidity. And these people, I believe in protecting people, but you build a safe zone. I was the first one to say it. Build a big, fat, beautiful safe zone someplace in Syria where you can, where you can have it, right? And you build it, and but you get the Gulf states. The Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, before the oil came down, but they're still doing very well. Cost them less to take out oil than any place else. But Saudi Arabia was making $1 billion a day. And we protect them for nothing. It's going to all change, folks. It's going to all change. We spend so much money. Everyone says, oh, well, we spend 10 times more than every other country or any other country, and even more than that. But you know what we do? We spend it all protecting. We spend so much of it protecting other countries. And in some cases, those other countries are economic behemoths, like Germany, like Japan, like South Korea. We protect South Korea. And I have friends, by the way, love the people of Germany, love the people of Japan, love the people of South Korea. I have buildings in South Korea. It's a very great place. But we have 28,000 soldiers, 28,000 on our line. We have 28,000. Think of it. we get like peanuts. So we're protecting them, and try ordering a television set. Just give it a shot, made in the USA. There is no such thing, no such animal. They're all made in South Korea and a little bit Japan because of Sony. But they're all made, most of them made in, I order thousands and thousands of televisions a year. And they're all made in South Korea. I'd love to buy here. I would love to buy here, but you can't buy here. So we're going to have them, and this isn't like anything other than, hey, folks, you got to take care of us. This is a two-way street. This is not a one-way street. We protect all these people. Every time this madman starts talking nuclear, we immediately send our ships, and we don't get it. They pay us nothing. They pay us peanuts compared to what it's costing us. So what are we doing it for? Do you know that we have a pact with Japan that if Japan is attacked, we have to go to war. We go to war right away. We're going to protect Japan. Okay. But if we're attacked, Japan doesn't have to do anything. Okay. That's the way we have. In other words, if somebody attacks us, Japan doesn't have to do a thing. But if Japan is attacked, we have to immediately come to their defense, go to war, do whatever's necessary. It's just not fair. It's not even a question of not fair. It's not smart. It's not good. And they don't even respect us for it. Because they say, can you believe, I can just see these people, they say, can you believe how stupid they are? Who would make deals like this? And we have many of them. So we protect Germany, we protect Saudi Arabia, we protect different places in the Middle East. These Gulf states aren't putting up any money toward the migrants. And by the way, I have a big heart. I want to take care. But they're not coming into this country because we don't know who they are. There's no way of finding out who they are. They have no papers, no documentation. They could be ISIS. And you look at those migration lines. You look at that great migration. Have you ever seen so many people? It's like one of the lines trying to get into our event the other night when we had it the other night for the veterans. It was, I mean, literally, it was so, we could have filled up that arena. We could have filled it up 10 times over. It was the most incredible thing. But when you look at that migration, so many people. And what's the story? So many young, strong men. Young, strong men. And you say, what's going on? This doesn't look right. I mean, there's something wrong here. So we're not going to allow them. And if I win, they have to go back. They're going to have to go back because we cannot allow our country to be riddled with problems any more than we already have. We have a tremendous immigration problem. We have so many different problems. We don't know where these people come from. We're never going to be able to find out where they come from. It could be the great Trojan horse of all time. They're going to have to go back. We're going to try and get the Gulf states. I tell you what, I'll put a lot of pressure on them because I don't want to spend our money. I want a safe zone, but I don't want to spend a lot of money on it because we don't have a lot of money. That's why we should have never given the money back to Iran, the $150 billion. We should have told them, I'm sorry, we don't have it. We don't have it. Sorry, folks. And we should have never, ever started that negotiation until we got our prisoners back. To go through that whole negotiation, and you watch, that's going to lead to a lot of bad things because we essentially paid $150 billion to get our prisoners back. That's going to lead to a lot of bad things. So I just want to say tonight is so important. This is the beginning of taking our country back. It's going to be an amazing period of time. We're going to all remember each other. I'm going to remember you. I'm going to remember the crowds and the unbelievable positive. I mean, people love this country so much. Somebody asked me before, one of the reporters called, and they said, what have you learned? I said, I learned how much people love our country. They love our country. It's incredible. When I see what goes on, it's just incredible. When I see when we have 21,000 people in Dallas, and we have so many, I mean, the crowds are so incredible. We have 35,000 people in Mobile, Alabama. A couple of weeks ago, we had 20,000 people in Oklahoma. And now we're leading all the polls, and we're leading Iowa, but it doesn't mean anything. You got to go out tonight in Caucus. I mean, you people are all fans, and you're fans of ourselves. But tonight, you have to go out in Caucus, and it looks like the snowstorm is not going to be hitting us until sometime fairly late, like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, maybe even not even till the next day. And so that's really good because they all say the more people that go out, the better we're going to do. And I don't say me, I say we, because it is we. It's a movement. It's we. So you've got to go out. I kid when I say if you're in bed, if you're sick, if you can't walk, if the doctor says you cannot leave, I don't care. Get out of bed and come. You got to do it. You got to do it. So Hopefully tonight we're going to have the beginning of what is going to be, in a certain way, a very positive revolution. I mean, this will be a very, very positive revolution. We're going to take our country back, and we are going to make America great again. And I love you all, and thank you all. Special people, thank you all. Appreciate it. I'll sign some. Thank you. Thank you all.